All right, good afternoon, everybody. Hi, Jolie. How you doing? Glad you could join us for today's session we're doing on posture. Posture is the topic of conversation, so today we're going to be doing a brief talk about what posture is supposed to be traditionally, some changes we'd like to see in the thought process of what posture could possibly be, how we use it in training, how you can use it in your daily life, the improvements of which can lead to feeling better more often, how you get around in the world. So when we're talking about posture and we're talking about how it pertains to wellness, first off, let's go ahead and consider the spine, the spine and all of its parts. We're talking about the thoracic, the cervical, and the lumbar spine. How each one of them is its own unique section with its own unique shape to it. So you have your cervical, right, which is right here, the back part, the base of the neck, headed down towards the thoracic, which makes up, your core, what people refer to as the core, and then the lumbar. This is where most people have the problem when they describe their back pain. So you have three different areas that are traditionally thought of when they think about the spinal column, and it has a S shape to it. So that S shape right there makes me think that, as far as referring to it as a spinal column, we're probably not in any position to go and rename how it's called, the spinal column, but is it like any column you've ever seen before? So when we think about a column, we think about a structure that is top to bottom, right? And that you can put several thousands of pounds of weight and pressure on it, and that it can support that weight. However, let's say this was our column here. You could support several thousands of pounds of pressure on top of it. But what happens to a column when it experiences a change in movement? So instead of the pressure coming from here, the pressure is going to come over here on the side. Well, that column won't be able to stand. It won't be able to withstand change. Your spinal column, however, is actually designed for change. So the first thing that I want you to consider is that your spine is made for different degrees of flexion and extension, and that all of the different muscles of the back and all of your musculature is designed to pull and push and twist and move in three different planes of motion on the spinal column. So we refer to that, and this is the first word that I want to, first concept that I want to introduce to you today, and that is dynamic. A dynamic type of movement. So you're going to be in constant movement throughout your day, moving around, and your spinal column actually prefers this to what is the opposite of dynamic, which is static. So static in the way that we're talking about it here means stationary, not moving, only in one position. So this gets us to comparing these two concepts, static versus dynamic. And if the spinal column was really a true column, up and down, then it would prefer static. It would prefer that it had a very solid base, and that you could have several thousands of pounds stacked up on top of it. But instead what we have is this flexible, movable, S-shaped, curved with its cervical, thoracic, and lumbar pieces, and it actually prefers a dynamic movement. So where does the concept come from that? Oh, thanks. that we are supposed to have one set position. Let's say, for example, in an office setting that we're here today, that we're supposed to have one set position, and this is our if we could find somehow the perfect position to be in while we are working. So I have my computer screen here and my typewriter here and the mouse here, that if I could just find the perfect way to sit, cervical set right, thoracic set properly, lumbar set right, that I could just work in this position for an untold number of hours per day, and everything's going to be okay. that is a problem, because the spine does demand movement, and so does the muscles, or sort of do the muscles that surround it. So where does this come from? Who are the people that created static philosophy? Well, I'd like you to maybe indulge me on this quick history lesson here, that the Industrial Revolution, which was started back in the 1800s, they were the owners of what would become the manufacturing plants, are looking to bring in cheap labor that they could train to do one job well, and then have them do that one job all day long, and that would be perfect for them. Hi, Lisa, how you doing? That would be perfect for them to set them up into this system of interchangeable parts, and all these pieces coming together to make a final product. So therefore, if we could get a worker into the perfect working station where they are to do the same job over and over, and if we can perfect the movements that they do, we're going to lose less time, we're going to lose less money, create less waste, and thus create a perfect system. So all that is great for machines. And of course, humans, we are not machines. We were never meant to be. As a matter of fact, when we do something several times in a row, all day long or for several hours, we end up with something called repetitive stress injury. So repetitive stress injury, oh, thanks, Angel. We are getting this repetitive stress injury, and it could be momentary, or it could be something that is pervasive throughout the course of our lifetime. We develop these injuries from being in one position for too long, even if it is the quote-unquote perfect position to be in. Because again, we are not supposed to be static. We are not supposed to be staying in the one position all day, or for several hours of the day, or even minute to minute. So if you can incorporate more movement into your own work environment, where you can, in the case of this office, very lucky to be able to have a stand-up desk, which means as I start to get tired or worn out from sitting in this very comfortable chair, which is very well made, and I am appreciative of having it. It's very well made and very good for my back, gives me some support, right? And I can do my typing leaning back, sitting up, with my feet directly under me, but that's already 3 different positions. Once I stand up and I use the crank on the side of the desk, then I'm in another position where I could stand with a right foot back or left foot back, right? And we could change the angle of which, we could change the side that we're putting the mouse on, or we can use either one of our hands to work the computer. So creating several different positions that you can be in, and each one of them knowing why you're using that position, will create a dynamic posture for you, will create a set of movements that won't allow you to become worn out, either mentally or physically. And those two things are intimately connected, even though some people still want to keep those ideas separate. Whatever your body is physically going through, it does affect your mental state. So speaking of which, of that connection with the mind and the physical, and furthering the concept of dynamic movement, let's consider yoga for a bit. So yoga is a great exercise. It gets you into several different dynamic movements. So the pose itself is important. Let's say we're doing the shoulder stand. That is where you would lay flat on your back, right? And then you would aim your legs up to the ceiling, and you would squeeze your shoulder blades back and hold yourself with the back of your head pressing against the ground, and your shoulders squeezed back, legs up. And that would be the shoulder stand. But getting into the position, the dynamic movement that it takes to get into position, is also part of it. So dynamic movement leading to an end result. So if you're going to do 20 different positions in one yoga session, It's the moving from one position to another that is also just as important as the final posture itself. Now, our only issue with that is, should we be bending and twisting, flexing and extending for its own sake, or should we be exercising with a purpose in mind? So when you're thinking about how you're going to develop this new dynamic posture that you're going to come up with for yourself, the different ways that you're going to move throughout the day, and what you need to work on to develop those different postures, as you learn new exercises, the one thing I would like people to ask while they're learning new exercises, if they're working with a trainer, if they're working with a friend, if they're just in the gym and learning something from a new person, or if they're working with a yoga instructor, always ask when learning a new movement, is this functional? Or how is this movement functional? Is this going to transition into something that I can use in my daily life, or is this something that we're doing it for the sake of showing that we can do it? Probably one example would be a full split, right? Martial artists do full splits as a testament to their flexibility and the height of how high they can kick, or how far they can move their leg above their head. So that's good to have that amount of flexibility. Is it functional? Or does having that amount of flexibility actually lead to other injuries later on? So there are some exercises that are done in order to improve dynamic posture. These would be exercises like the overhead squat, right? If you're feeling tired in the middle of the day and you need to do something just to get up from your desk, so real quick, you could stand up with your hands above your head, and as you try to reach for the ceiling, the shoulder blades come back. And as the shoulder blades come back and squeeze, you flex your quads and your calves. And as you're standing up, after you get done doing a few of those, don't be surprised if your shoulder blades start pulling back, and it sits in a very natural position, helps out with the posture, helps out with the lower back, and helps to reset all those fibers. So that would be one exercise. If you do it just with your body weight, will make a significant improvement in your immediate posture. Now, then why do people work out with weights in the overhead squat with the bar overhead? Well, because as we increase the resistance, more muscle fibers must be recruited in order that the exercise can be completed. So right now, when I just stood up with my hands up over my head, my favorite muscles, that means the muscles that work very well and already have a really good connection with my brain, do what they do very easily. So there's preferred muscles, there's muscles that you use all the time, and those will be the ones that help you to move your arms around and get your mobility. But you have so many more muscle fibers in every single muscle group that when you add in a bit of resistance, more muscle fibers must come into play at one time. And if you can add in more muscle fibers into play at one time, you are changing the shape of your posture. You're developing muscles that, as the ones that you normally use get tired throughout the day, you end up incorporating the other muscles too that are side by side with it, and they can help you keep your perfect dynamic postures longer. So we do have some people that start off the day with a great posture, walking around, shoulders back, able. And why do you do that, by the way? Why do you need to have your shoulders back? That's because we have our diaphragm here, and every time I relax my diaphragm, right? Every time I relax my diaphragm, I can get more air moving in and out of my system. So you can have an active diaphragm where you pull air in hard, or you can have a relaxed diaphragm where the air makes its way into your passages a lot easier, into your lungs. So if I have my shoulders forward and I'm slouched and I'm tired, I don't have as much ability for air to get into the system. If I have my shoulders back and up, then I have the ability, when I just relax, if I just relax in this position, the air then comes in, and I'm able to get more oxygen to all of my different selves. So standing with your shoulders back is part of that static philosophy. People talking about, okay, this is the one perfect posture. You should try to have your shoulders back more throughout the day than you have them slumped over. That doesn't mean that if you're sitting down watching a basketball game, or you're involved in something, you'll see me several times throughout the day with my shoulders slumped forward. Doesn't mean I'm tired, doesn't mean I have bad posture. It's just, even though this is a perfect position, we cannot keep that position all the time. Again, we are dynamic. We move from one position to another, and that is why we are not going to be too tough on people when we see people sitting slumped over, right? It's like, oh, that guy's got horrible posture. How do you know they hadn't had the perfect posture all day? So you want to make sure that you know what a good posture is, but you're okay with seeing people like in different standing positions. What we want to be careful of with ourselves is when we look at how we're sitting or standing or walking throughout the day, how often are we in a shoulder slumped forward position? How often are we becoming more tired? Because as we start to slump over and as we lose that dynamic posture, that ability to have a dynamic posture, we are losing our ability to breathe. We're losing our ability to think, right? Because the air affects thought process, and we are increasing our stress. So again, dynamic posture incorporated throughout the day, thinking, is this a functional way to sit? Training with resistance so that you can improve the muscles that create dynamic movement. And just know that there are people who are comfortable in their dysfunction. So if I was to find somebody who wakes up in the morning with their shoulders slumped forward, they spend their whole day like this, they watch TV like this, they drive like this, and probably even when they sleep at night, their shoulders are slumped forward. They can't relax. They wonder why they can't get good sleep, because their shoulders are pinned forward. They're trying to relax, and they can't just pull them backward. Those type of people, if we try to physically get in, like behind them, and try to actually pull the scapula back for them, it might be a bit painful. This is where a good massage therapist can come in, because they can help to relax the muscles, break up the fascia that's back there, and then start to help reshape. But a massage therapist can't do the resistive portion, the workout part. That's the part where you get into the gym and you take advantage of what the massage therapist or the physical therapist has created for you, which is working space where you can now build up the muscles and reshape how you move and how the spine functions. So you have that. You have those people who have dysfunction. They don't necessarily feel bad with that slouched or slightly forward bend in their shoulders. However, if you were to train them to hold their shoulders back, use resistive modalities, break up fascia, then eventually, within about a year or two, they'll say, well, I don't know, all of a sudden, like about 6 months ago, I just started feeling better, started having more energy. I was able to sleep better. I wasn't snoring as much. I wouldn't wake up as much in the middle of the night. So how you rest is actually connected to your posture. All right. And I guess to wrap things up here, I just wanted to let you know that if you guys have any questions about posture, your workstation, about exercises that you can use to improve your posture, that all the exercises that we do at Cavasso Sports Institute or over here at RGB Fit 24/7, we think about dynamic posture and exercises that are functional as our top priority, because connected to wellness is the idea that you're always going to have good mobility and that you will always have a lot of energy along with that mobility to help to support the things that you're trying to get done in your day, your different goals. Just remember this: at the end of the day, any exercise that you do 100% of the time, or anything that you do 100% of the time, you try to do that same thing all day long, will create dysfunction, will create discomfort that will eventually lead to compensations, and then will eventually lead to injury. So even if your favorite exercise is riding a bike, great exercise, by the way, not putting it down in any way, gotta make sure I say that. This riding a bike is awesome exercise, unless you do it exclusively and you do it all the time. Then you will end up with compensations in your lower back. You'll end up with issues where you are moving in a sagittal plane consistently, never working your transverse planes, never working your frontal plane, and you will end up with lower back problems. That's not a lower back injury, it's a lower back issue, sciatic pain, that will eventually lead to an injury somewhere else in your daily life. So we do not want to do any one exercise all the time. So even the people that come to train with us, I always ask them, well, what else have you done this week? Because no one person can train with us 3 or 4 days in the week, and I only have them doing resistance exercise exclusively. We also want running, swimming. We also want, that's my boss over there, Miss Jolie Bettis. She's the one that makes it all happen. So we've got running, swimming, Tai Chi, yoga, Zumba, a lot of different exercises out there. Try to switch it up. Try to make sure that you're out there getting a whole bunch of different experience. You know what? Shout out to the Fireman's Park and paddleboarding, which is also becoming pretty popular. They haven't tried it yet. You know, get out there. It's something new to do. Trampoline park, also great exercise. So the more you switch it up, the more your dynamic posture will thank you for it, because you'll be able to realize that a lot of the postures in the different exercises are actually connected to each other. So your ability to get more oxygen doesn't just help you out in running, it also helps you in swimming, it also helps you in weightlifting. So these things are connected. So again, if you have any questions about dynamic postures, or if you have any questions about anything having to do with wellness, please give us a call over here at the benefits office. You know, we're always here at extension 1426, or you can just drop us a line on the City of McAllen wellness page or the intranet's benefit page. So we're always here for your questions and comments. Thank you for all of you that were watching today. Bring some people in to come and work out with us. Remember, you get 2 months free at Cabasso Sports Institute, so that's a great time for me to help you to assess your posture, maybe give you some exercises to work on, and who knows, maybe in 2 months you'll have enough information to where whatever gym or exercise modality you choose to do can help you out in order to get to the place that you think is optimum wellness for yourself. So with all that in mind, my name is Rafael Curiel. I'm City McAllen Wellness Coach. Thank you for watching. And last thing. I'm sorry. We also have, for people who are watching that own their own wellness business, right, and are not necessarily connected to the city of McAllen, or they're not currently working with us or don't have a working relationship with the city. We have a program for promoting people like nutritionists, yoga studios, gyms, restaurants, dance, fitness. We want to let City of McAllen employees know, and the general public know, that your business is in the well nexus, meaning that when it comes to all the things that we talk about here on the show or on this live program, that they are also kind of along the same energy, kind of along the same philosophy. So, we don't always have to agree on everything 100%. However, it's good to know that the philosophies are the same as far as we want to take care of people. We want to do it in a way that is comfortable, in a way that is progressive and scalable, and that we're here to support each other to make sure that the wellness industry of the City of McAllen does grow in a direction that helps as many people as possible. All right, so again, thank you for your time. Contact me about WellNexus or anything having to do with your own individual needs or fitness goals, wellness goals. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next Friday.